When you trust, God unlocks what was blocked. Have you ever noticed that when you try to control everything, nothing seems to work? But the moment you finally let go, something shifts inside and outside of you. That's the moment when trust becomes the invisible key that unlocks what once seemed impossible. The universe works in silence when you rest in faith. God doesn't need your worry, He needs your trust. While you doubt, you block the flow. When you believe, the flow opens. And it's not about doing nothing, it's about acting with faith. Trust is the energy that tells the universe, I've already received it, even if I can't see it yet. That vibration changes everything, because where there is faith, fear has no space. God doesn't move through desperation, but through surrender. When you choose to trust, something starts moving behind the scenes. Doors that have been locked for years begin to creak open. Crooked paths begin to straighten. Trust is the bridge between the visible and the invisible. Hill said that faith is the mental element capable of turning thought into creative power. What blocks you isn't God's delay, it's your anxiety. While you worry, you vibrate scarcity. But when you trust, you vibrate abundance, and the universe responds to vibration, not to begging. That's why trusting is more powerful than insisting. When you trust, you stop asking and start thanking. Gratitude is the living proof of faith. It's the gesture that says, I know it's already mine. When your heart vibrates with gratitude, mental barriers begin to crumble. What once felt stuck begins to move again. Opportunities return. God doesn't need to prove Himself. He needs you to align yourself. The universe doesn't open doors for those who doubt, but for those who already live the result within. What's blocked on the outside is a reflection of fear within, and what becomes unblocked inside manifests outside. There are moments when everything feels locked, your finances, your relationships, your dreams, but maybe the blockage isn't out there, it's in your vibration. You speak faith with your lips, but your heart whispers, it won't work. It's like trying to open a lock with the wrong key. Trust is the right key. When you insert it, everything aligns. Money starts coming from unexpected places. The right people appear. Divine coincidences surround you. It's not magic. It's faith in action. God doesn't respond to desperation, but to conviction, and conviction is born from surrender. Many spend their whole lives trying to force doors that God never opened, while ignoring windows He has thrown wide open. Trusting is also knowing when to stop. It's understanding that God's timing isn't measured by human clocks. Sometimes what feels like a blockage is simply preparation. God is shaping your structure to handle what's coming. There's no point in asking for a castle while still thinking like someone afraid to lose a room. Trust transforms your mind, and a transformed mind attracts everything it needs. When you become vibrationally compatible with what you desire, nothing can stand in your way. The vibration of trust is quiet but powerful. It doesn't scream, it doesn't force. It just knows, and the universe responds to the frequency of knowing. Hill called this applied faith, the conscious use of the mind to create reality. Jesus said, if you believe, you will see the glory of God. Notice, it's not see to believe, it's believe to see. When you act from that certainty, blockages dissolve naturally. The problem isn't the obstacle, it's the fear of not succeeding. When faith occupies the space of fear, the impossible bends. There's a sacred moment when everything changes. The moment you decide to trust even without evidence. When you maintain that vibration, the universe rearranges events, people, and opportunities to align with your purpose. Fear closes, faith opens, and the unlocking begins within before it appears without. Suddenly, what used to worry you no longer weighs on you. What held you back no longer limits you. And then, blessings begin to flow like a river breaking through a dam. That's the miracle of trust in action. Most people don't understand that faith is a continuous vibration. It's not enough to believe for a day and doubt the next. You must persist. Hill said, "Persistence is faith in motion." And trusting means exactly that, to keep vibrating abundance even when your eyes still see lack. A mind trained in trust interprets signs differently. Where others see an ending, it sees a beginning. Where others see loss, it sees liberation. That inner shift is what unlocks what was blocked. The universe responds to what you are, not to what you ask for. Pause and remember how many times God has already proven that everything happens at the right time. How many situations seemed impossible, but once you finally let go, they solved themselves. That's not luck. It's divine synchronicity. Faith creates a field where everything works for your good. When you trust, even delays become protection. When you doubt, even blessings turn into scarcity. So don't fear the waiting. It's not punishment, it's construction. The blockage is just the bridge between your request and your preparation. Today, decide to trust. Make it a daily practice. Say, "I trust even when I can't see." That simple phrase changes your entire vibration. God doesn't need explanations. He needs your surrender. The universe doesn't work under pressure but under vibration. And when you truly trust, the invisible begins to move. What was stuck for months starts flowing in days. The right people find you, answers appear, paths light up. Trust is the password that unlocks the doors doubt has locked. When you trust, the universe begins to rearrange everything in your favor, even if you can't yet perceive it. Trust is a form of spiritual magnetism. It's when you choose to vibrate in alignment with the certainty that God is already working, even if your human mind can't see the results. It's in that silence that the greatest miracles occur. Anxiety is the noise that interrupts divine flow. Trust is the silence that restores it. When you let go, the universe understands that you've understood, and when you understand, the process accelerates. There is no real blockage when there is true faith, only a lapse in perception. Everything that seems stuck is merely a bridge under construction. Trust is the most refined form of energy because it's born from the absence of fear. Those who trust don't need to control, they simply direct. Control is the ego's attempt to replace faith with logic. But God is not logic, He is providence. Logic says, it's impossible. Faith says, it's already done. When you trust, the mind stops creating obstacles and starts creating opportunities. You stop being a repeater of worries and become a transmitter of possibilities. That's when the universe recognizes your vibration as a signal of readiness. And everything that was withheld begins to flow, because the vibration of trust is identical to the vibration of manifestation. Imagine a dam holding back water for years. Every doubt, every fear, every attempt to force things is another brick. But when you decide to trust, you remove one brick at a time until the water bursts through and abundance rushes in again. Life is that river. It wants to flow. It's the mind that builds the dam. God never stopped sending blessings, but they need an open heart to enter. When you vibrate trust, you open the gate of the heart and divine energy flows freely. Trust is also a spiritual act of humility. It's saying, I don't know how, but I know it will happen. And that knowing is the turning point. The vibration of trust is recognized throughout the universe. It's like a luminous frequency spreading around you, attracting people, ideas, paths, and synchronicities that were hidden. That's when what was blocked begins to dissolve. The money that wouldn't come starts coming. The love that seemed distant appears. Answers arrive in unexpected ways. God doesn't need you to understand. He needs you to feel. Faith isn't reasoning, it's vibration, and every vibration is creative. Napoleon Hill said, faith is the emotion that transforms thought into creative power. When you vibrate faith, your thoughts come alive. The universe begins to respond with signs, coincidences, and inner impulses. And every time you trust, you strengthen the magnetic field of abundance. That's why people who live in trust seem lucky. It's not luck, it's alignment. You can transform any area of your life with this vibration: health, finances, relationships, spirituality, because everything is energy. And where there is faith, there is flow. Where there is fear, there is blockage. If something seems stuck, ask yourself, what within me still doesn't trust? Sometimes it's the fear of the unknown. Sometimes it's the guilt of allowing yourself to prosper. But when you decide to forgive, release, and trust, the universe understands that the old cycle is over. And when a cycle ends in peace, the new one begins with blessings. Trust isn't only spiritual, it's practical. When you trust, you act with clarity. You stop procrastinating because you believe in the outcome. You stop sabotaging yourself because you know you're being guided. Trust removes the weight of forced effort and replaces it with inspired action. That's how God works, through inspiration, intuition, meetings, and signs. He doesn't descend to you, he manifests through you. That's why when you trust, you become a channel of providence. And there's something magical that happens when you trust: peace. And peace is the environment where miracles grow. No miracle is born in mental chaos. It's in the silence of certainty that God works. So when everything feels blocked, don't panic. Say, I trust. Repeat it until your whole body believes. The vibration changes, the field changes, and the universe responds. What was a blockage becomes a lesson. What was a delay becomes alignment. What was impossible becomes testimony. You were not forgotten. You were being prepared. Waiting time is not punishment. It's the space where God molds you to receive what you asked for. When the vessel is ready, the wine is poured. While you trust, He acts. And the more you vibrate in that certainty, the faster the invisible becomes visible. So take a deep breath and declare, I trust God, and nothing can stop me. This phrase is an energetic password. Every time you say it, you send a command to the universe. Unlock what's blocked, and the universe obeys. Trust is faith in motion, and faith, when it becomes a habit, turns into creative power. Napoleon Hill said, whatever the mind of man can conceive and believe, it can achieve. Trusting is believing until the impossible becomes inevitable.